Okay, y'all, so we're just looking for some things, and I don't expect you to know all of them because there's some grammar stuff in here that we haven't talked about this year. But we're going to use workshops to kind of take care of some grammar things that either we didn't get to, or that even though it's not an 8th grade standard, I just kind of want you to have heard about it before you move on to the high school, even though we don't have to cover it in 8th grade, okay? So some things you're not going to know, and so that's okay. I'm just going to point it out to you, all right? So, does anyone else become an emotional mess when it comes to their kids' birthdays? Does anyone see an issue in that sentence? Paris, what's one thing? It is spelled wrong. What should it be? T-H-E-I-R. And I'm going to point something else out to y'all about that in a minute. But this there is wrong. It's supposed to be T-H-E-I-R. All right, Blake, you see something else, or was that what you saw? Okay. All right, listen when I read it. Does anyone else become an emotional mess when it comes to their kids' birthdays?
Is it birthday?
There's something in there, yeah. Okay, now, we're going to take the apostrophe off of birthday, yeah, because it's plural, it's not possessive. But I need an apostrophe somewhere else. For kids, because that's possessive. The birthday belongs to the kid, okay? We're going to say one kid, so I'm going to put my apostrophe right here. Now, aren't I asking a question? Well, do they have a question mark?
No.
What's up there? Exclamation mark. That needs to be a question mark.
Is it called an exclamation mark or exclamation point?
Either way. You can call it either one. I'm going to come back and talk to you about something else in a minute, but let's go to the next sentence. I seen the pictures from the party this week, and it made me realize how fast time goes.
Oh.
Very good. Now, you probably hear people all the time say, I seen it. Okay? I seen something. However, seen should not be used unless you've got a helping verb like have or had. I have seen. I had seen. Seen should never be used by itself. That's why it should be saw. Okay? Corey, are you writing these corrections down? Fabulous. I saw the pictures from the party this week, and it made me realize how fast time goes. There's a punctuation mark missing in there.
Pictures?
It's something we talked about before the ACAP. Does anybody? There's a word in there joining two things. What do you think, Chris?
And.
I can't see for the star.
You know about and?
You can say that while we do this.
No, I'm talking about.
I am talking about and, Paris. Is that you? Yes. What you think, baby? We've got two complete thoughts joined by a conjunction, so I need a comma before that conjunction. Very good. Else I've got a run-on sentence. Okay? So we're getting rid of the run-on. It is a reminder to myself to slow down and enjoy each moment. Someone who hasn't talked to me, can you tell me something going on in that last sentence? Ethan. 1 O and 2 in this particular sentence. Yes. So take off that extra O. And there's something else. It might not be Sartez. What about it? Yes, myself is all one word. And they've got a space. So it needs to be one word, myself. Chris, are you supposed to be using that word?
I mean, like, how am I supposed to say it?
What?
Because they didn't even do that.
Yeah, that's why you need to be careful about what you put on social media so you're not looking like you don't know something. Okay, I'm going to share something with y'all that I don't expect you to know at all. We've not studied it. I don't think you would have had this in 7th grade, but I'm going to point it out. Okay? This word anyone is considered singular, one person. Okay? We talked about that with subject-verb agreement, but this isn't subject-verb agreement. So really this there, and you don't have to change it, I'm just letting you know. Because this is singular, it really should be, does anyone else become an emotional mess when it comes to his or her kids' birthdays? Because since this is singular, that's supposed to be singular. I'm not going to get into that right now because it's kind of a big unit, but I just kind of wanted to point that out.
Would you write his, like, hers?
Or just put the word or. Yeah. Anytime you're talking about something singular, you're not supposed to then use the word there, T-H-E-I-R, because that's plural. And you're not supposed to mix up singular and plural. Now, on a daily basis when we're talking, we don't do that. But when you need to know the correct grammar, that's what's correct. Okay? I think we got everything. Do y'all see anything that I would have missed? No, I really am asking y'all to check behind me, see if I missed anything. I think we're good.
We should be good.
Okay, so if y'all will, I'm going to pause this. Help me remember that I need to unpause it in a moment. Okay, so our narrator is Ponyboy Curtis. So it's a first-person narrator. He tells the story and he's also in the story. Okay? He describes himself physically. Light brown, reddish hair, green, gray eyes. His hair's long. He's 14 years old. Okay? For his personality, he likes books. He likes movies. He's kind of a loner. He likes to kind of do things by himself. Soda Pop Curtis. That's his middle brother, who is 16. And we're going to get to his physical description today. He's happy-go-lucky. He's very understanding. And we talked about happy-go-lucky means he doesn't really let things bother him. He just kind of goes with the flow in life. He just... Yes, I gave it to you. So you keep looking. Maybe if you put things where they belong, you could find it. Yeah. You don't need to laugh because you're still looking for yours. Okay. Derry. His name is Daryl, but they call him Derry. That's the oldest brother out of these three brothers. He's 20, 6'2", real muscular. He's got dark brown hair, pale blue-green eyes. He's very smart. He's real hard on Ponyboy, like he's hard on his youngest brother. And we'll talk more about that later. So, they are all greasers. That's the gang, y'all, of the kids who are considered the troublemakers. They don't have a lot of money. They have bad home lives, usually. What do we now know about the brothers as what's part of their sad situation? Their parents were killed in a car wreck, and so Derry is kind of having to raise his two younger brothers. Okay? They're kind of on their own. So they don't have a lot of money. And then we're going to get into descriptions of Steve, 2-Bit, Dally, and Johnny today. So, looking at our learning target. First, everybody look at your learning target. I can analyze how particular lines of dialogue, what was dialogue again? What's dialogue? Yes, and it's when people are talking, okay? How dialogue or incidents in a story. What's an incident, y'all? What's an incident? Just in general, in life, what's an incident? It's just when something happens. Whether it's good or bad, it's just when something happens. Okay? How incidents and dialogue can reveal aspects of a character. So when we hear them talking, we see things happen, that's when we start to really understand these characters, especially in their personality and their habits. Okay? Our agenda, We're going to finish chapter 1 and hopefully get to the questions. When we finish chapter 3, which should be end of the week, then next week we'll have an actual reading test on the 3 chapters. I'm going to try to do like 3 or 4 chapters at a time to get tests in. Now, you might though, every once in a while have a reading quiz just to see that you're paying attention. So if you choose to sleep and not read along with us, that's where those quizzes can kind of hurt you if you're not paying attention. Okay? So, if you can't find your sheet that I gave you, my suggestion, get out a piece of notebook paper and draw yourself 3 columns, jot down the names, and write down what you see. It's up to you, but I guarantee you're going to see character identification on at least one quiz and on that first test at least. So if you don't have it, that's going to be, your deal. But I'm done making extra copies for things. Y'all are about to go to high school. You better get yourselves together because they're not going to make extra copies for you. Okay? They're just not. You got to grow up a little bit.
They will.
No. So we are going to be on page 7 of the book. At the bottom of page 7. What? We're going to be starting at the very bottom paragraph where it starts to describe soda.
Page 7.
Page 7. Right here. Last paragraph. Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. Do you all see that at the bottom of page 7? Okay. So that's where we're going to be starting today. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get a description of him today.
Soda is handsomer than anyone else I know. Not like Derry. Soda's movie star kind of handsome. The kind that people stop on the street to watch go by. He's not as tall as Derry, and he's a little slimmer, but he has a finely drawn, sensitive face that somehow manages to be reckless and thoughtful at the same time. He's got dark gold hair that he combs back, long and silky and straight, and in the summer, the sun bleaches it to a shining wheat gold. His eyes are dark brown, lively, dancing, recklessly laughing eyes that can be gentle and sympathetic one moment and blazing with anger the next. He has Dad's eyes, but Soda is one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol. In our neighborhood, it's rare to find a kid who doesn't drink once in a while, but Soda never touches a drop. He doesn't need to. He gets drunk on just plain living, and he understands everybody. He looked at me more closely. I looked away hurriedly because, if you want to know the truth, I was starting to bawl. I knew I was as white as I felt, and I was shaking like a leaf. Soda just put his hand on my shoulder. "Easy, pony boy. They ain't gonna hurt you no more." "I know," I said, but the ground began to blur and I felt hot tears running down my cheeks. I brushed them away impatiently. "I'm just a little spooked, that's all." I drew a quivering breath and quit crying. You just don't cry in front of Derry, not unless you're hurt like Johnny had been that day we found him in the vacant lot. Compared to Johnny, I wasn't hurt at all. Soda rubbed my hair. "You're an okay kid, Pony." I had to grin at him. Soda can make you grin no matter what. I guess it's because he's always grinning so much himself. "You're crazy, Soda. Out of your mind." Darry looked as if he'd like to knock our heads together. You're both nuts. Soda merely cocked one eyebrow, a trick he picked up from Two-Bit. It seems to run in this family. Darry stared at him for a second, then cracked a grin. Soda Pop isn't afraid of him like everyone else and enjoys teasing him. I'd just as soon tease a full-grown grizzly, but for some reason, Darry seems to like being teased by Soda. Our gang had chased the Socias to their car and heaved rocks at them. They came running toward us now, 4 lean, hard guys. They were all as tough as nails and looked it. I had grown up with them, and they accepted me, even though I was younger, because I was Darry and Soda's kid brother, and I kept my mouth shut good. Steve...
Okay, so let's stop for a minute and talk about Soda. We've got a good description of him. What does it say? What does Ponyboy tell us about Soda? Besides, like, we know he's the middle brother and he's 16, but he just told us quite a bit about him.
He not as tall as Jerry.
Right. He's very handsome, like the girls drool over Soda Pop.
Just like me.
Okay? That's just what I was thinking. That's, yep, first thing that came to my mind, Chris. So, yes, he's like the kind of, I don't know y'all's terms these days, but he would be that boy in town that, like, the girls were just like.
It's crazy how we don't have one in this town.
Well, okay, so, looking at the description of him, he's movie star handsome. Let me get my other pen so it's all matching. So, let's put that, and I'm going to put it in quotes since that's kind of that's how Ponyboy says it. He's movie star handsome. Dark gold hair.
His brown eyes.
Mm-hmm. Look what it says about his eyes, too. They're lively and dancing, recklessly laughing eyes. Now, I want you to notice the description of his eyes. He says they're lively and dancing. And then I want you to look what he says about Soda's personality. Okay, we already know he's happy-go-lucky, and then he says he's one of a kind. He can get drunk in a drag race or dancing without ever getting near alcohol. And he doesn't drink alcohol. He gets drunk on just plain living. Okay? So, he's got these lively dancing eyes, and they kind of match his personality. Okay? He just loves life. He has a good time no matter what. And when he says he gets drunk, that means, like, he has a good time and gets, he's using drunk as like a metaphor.
Isn't that an old saying, drunk on wine?
Yes. Okay? So he doesn't have to have alcohol to have a good time. Okay? So, does not drink.
Soda.
This is Soda. Shh. Sorry. Drunk on life.
Have you ever been drunk on life? No.
Maybe a few times in my life things have been so good that it's just been hard to be sad.
Are you drunk like drinking beer?
No. He's saying he doesn't need alcohol. He gets drunk on life. Okay, which means he doesn't have to drink to have fun at a party. He just has fun without all that. Okay? And he tells us that's rare because where they live, most of the kids do drink alcohol. Now, backtrack for a minute. Why would Pony Boy be bawling? Like, he's about to cry. He doesn't want to cry in front of his older brother. What happened right before all this? For the people who weren't here Friday.
Oh, yeah.
He got jumped by some socias, okay? And what you need to remember is they're the rich kids. Thank you, yes. They're the other group of kids. The rich kids that, there's a lot of stereotyping going on. And these rich kids don't get looked at as the troublemakers as much as these greasers because of like the way they dress, they have money and all that, one of the things you're supposed to get out of this book is that you cannot look at someone and judge that person based on what his or her looks are. Because you never know truly what that person's like until you get to know that person. You don't judge them by their clothing and how many earrings they've got in their nose, how many tattoos they've got, how long their hair is. You just don't know a person that way. Okay? So, thank you. Thank you, Ernest. So, the thing you will start to notice about these socias, though, they tend to jump people when there's maybe one greaser and they've got a group with them. Okay? Which to me is kind of cowardly.
When they have the advantage.
They have the advantage, yes.
ELA8
Okay? So, here comes some more of the greasers. And so, Pony Boy's going to introduce Steve, 2-Bit, Dally, and Johnny to us, and we'll be able to get a description of them as we read. So I'm going to let him tell us a little bit first, and then we will stop and write it down. Okay?
Randall was 17, tall and lean, with thick, greasy hair he kept combed in complicated swirls. He was cocky, smart, and Soda's best buddy since grade school. Steve's specialty was cars. He could lift a hubcap quicker and more quietly than anyone in the neighborhood. But he also knew cars upside down and backward, and he could drive anything on wheels. He and Soda worked at the same gas station, Steve part-time and Soda full-time, and their station got more customers than any other in town. Whether that was because Steve was so good with cars or because Soda attracted girls like honey draws flies, I couldn't tell you. I liked Steve only because he was Soda's best friend. He didn't like me. He thought I was a tag-along and a kid. Soda always took me with them when they went places if they weren't taking girls, and that bugged Steve. It wasn't my fault. Soda always asked me. I didn't ask him. Soda doesn't think I'm a kid. 2-Bit Matthews was the oldest of the gang and the wisecracker of the bunch. He was about 6 feet tall, stocky in build, and very proud of his long, rusty-colored sideburns. He had gray eyes and a wide grin, and he couldn't stop making funny remarks to save his life. You couldn't shut up that guy. He always had to get his 2 bits worth in, hence his name. Even his teachers forgot his real name was Keith, and we hardly remembered he had one. Life was one big joke to 2-Bit. He was famous for shoplifting and his black-handled switchblade, which he couldn't have acquired without his first talent. And he always was smarting off to the cops. He really couldn't help it. Everything he said was so irresistibly funny that he just had to let the police in on it to brighten up their dull lives. That's the way he explained it to me. He liked fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. He was still a junior at 18 and a half, and he never learned anything. He just went for kicks. I liked him real well because he kept us laughing at ourselves as well as at other things. He reminded me of Will Rogers. Maybe it was the grin. If I had to pick the real character of the gang, it would be Dallas Winston, Dally. I used to like to draw his picture when he was in a dangerous mood, but then I could get his personality down in a few lines. He had an elfish face with high cheekbones and a pointed chin, small, sharp animal teeth, and ears like a lynx. His hair was almost white, it was so blonde, and he didn't like haircuts or hair oil either, so it fell over his forehead in wisps and kicked out in the back in tufts and curled behind his ears and along the nape of his neck. His eyes were blue, blazing ice cold with a hatred of the whole world. Dally had spent 3 years on the wild side of New York and had been arrested at the age of 10. He was tougher than the rest of us. Tougher, colder, meaner. The shade of difference that separates a greaser from a hood wasn't present in Dally. He was as wild as the boys in the downtown outfits like Pim Shepard's gang. In New York, Dally blew off steam in gang fights. But here, organized gangs are rarities. There are just small bunches of friends who stick together, and the warfare is between the social classes. A rumble, when it's called, is usually born of a grudge fight, and the opponents just happen to bring their friends along. There are a few named gangs around, like the River Kings and the Tiber Street Tigers, but here in the Southwest, there's no gang rivalry. So Dally, even though he could get into a good fight sometimes, had no specific thing to hate. No rival gang. Only socius. And you can't win against them no matter how hard you try, because they've got all the breaks, and even whipping them isn't going to change that fact. Maybe that's why Dallas was so bitter. He had quite a reputation. They have a file on him down at the police station. He had been arrested, he got drunk, he rode in rodeos, lied, cheated, stole, rolled drunks, jumped small kids. He did everything. I didn't like him, but he was smart, and you had to respect him. Johnny Cade was last and least. If you can picture a little dark puppy that has been kicked too many times and is lost in a crowd of strangers, you'll have Johnny. He was the youngest next to me, smaller than the rest with a slight build. He had big black eyes and a dark tan face. His hair was jet black and heavily greased and combed to the side, but it was so long that it fell in shaggy bangs across his forehead. He had a nervous, suspicious look in his eyes, and that beating he got from the socials didn't help matters. He was the gang's pet, everyone's kid brother. His father was always beating him up, and his mother ignored him, except when she was hacked off at something, and then you could hear her yelling at him clear down at our house. I think he hated that worse than getting whipped. He would have run away 1,000,000 times if we hadn't been there. If it hadn't been for the gang, Johnny would never have known what love and affection are.
Okay, so we need to jot down some things about these people. Steve Randall, what's he really good at? What's his talent? And what else? Page 9. If he could lift a hubcap quicker and more quietly than anyone in the neighborhood, what's that mean? You know what it means to lift a hubcap? Steal it. He's real good at stealing. It's one of his talents. Okay? Wait. Yes. Okay. 2-Bit, I think, also does some stealing. But when it comes to Steve Randall, he is Soda's best friend. "17, tall, and lean, thick, greasy hair." Over here where it says, we'll put good with car. Good with cars needs to go over here. And I'm sorry, I think 2-Bit's the one that does all the stealing. And he works with Steve at the gas station. Works with Soda. Now, Steve doesn't really like Pony Boy because he's kind of like, oh, that's the little brother tagging along, you know. And so, and Pony Boy's kind of like, well, I don't really like him either, okay? So 2-bit, I'm sorry. 2-bit is the one I was talking about that does all the stealing. Sorry. He's the oldest. He likes to make jokes. And y'all, by oldest, if he's 18, remember, Derry is how old? 20. So, like, he's the oldest out of the gang that should still be in school.
Older than the gang is not his brother.
Right. Rusty colored sideburns. What does rusty colored mean? Do y'all know? It's kind of like a reddish color, yeah. Y'all know what sideburns are? Yeah. Uh-huh.
I've seen people wax them on TikTok. They pull them off.
They weird. Tell me what it
So, 2-bit, y'all, is kind of the jokester. He likes to make fun. He likes to make jokes. He's got to get his 2 bits in, and that's why they call him that. Okay, that's his nickname. And then, if y'all look at page 10, I'm sorry because I messed that up a minute ago. He was famous for shoplifting and his switchblade. Okay, so that would go over here under his personality. What's shoplifting? So I'm going to change words. Famous for stealing and what's a switchblade? Switchblade is a knife. And it tells us, and he wouldn't even have that knife if it weren't for that first talent, which means he stole that knife that he has.
I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what that means. It says he liked fights, blondes, and for some unfathomable reason, school. Unfathomable is one of y'all's words. Some reason that people can't understand, this crazy jokester liked school. Okay? Probably. It says he was still a junior at 18 and a half and he never learned anything. So he just likes to go for the social part of school. I'm sure y'all don't know anybody like that. Now, Dallas Winston, that they call Dally. His real name is Dallas. Okay? Y'all, he is actually truly what you would consider a gang member. He's cold. He's bitter. He's mad at the world. He doesn't have a family, really. Lots of anger. He lived in New York and was part of those kind of gangs. He's been in jail, went to jail when he was 10. So, Dallas is, yes, very good. Dallas is one of the part of their group that he's really got. It's not just that he has a bad home life. He's just mad at the world. Okay? Now, the description of him here, it's very different when we watch the movie after we read this book. He's described very differently physically than what he looks like in the movie. Okay? So you can't count on that. So, for Dallas, on page 10, high cheekbones, pointed chin, hair was almost white. Let's just focus on that. It's so blonde, it's almost white. So you can kind of picture him. Didn't like haircuts. He didn't like the oil in his hair, so his hair just kind of goes everywhere.
Laser blue eyes.
Mm-hmm. And they're ice cold, y'all.
You spell blazing with 2?
Should just be one. Sharp, small animal teeth. What does that make y'all think of?
He need braces.
Well, it just gives him that almost like ferocious look. Okay? Animal-like. Now, for his personality, a hatred of the whole world. Okay? So, hates the world. Went to jail at age 10. Which would be juvie, reform school. Did y'all see what they call a fight? What do they call a fight when the gangs get together and fight? A rumble. They call it a rumble. He hates the socias. Bless you. He hates those socias, y'all.
So he went to jail at 10?
What could you do at 10 to actually go to jail? So even a 10-year-old steals something, they just make them apologize and embarrass them. So
I don't
go
know.
to jail?
It doesn't tell us.
He probably killed him.
But if you look at page 11, he's got a reputation, okay, at the police station. He's been arrested. He's gotten drunk. He likes to ride in rodeos. He's lied. He's cheated. He's stolen. He's rolled drunks. That means like the drunk hobos in the city park or somewhere down. He'll roll them like off the bench when they're...
That's just...
It's mean. Like he's mean. It says he jumps kids. He's a mean person. Okay? The only people... He's not 10 anymore, baby. The only people that he cares about, and you can't even really tell it until later, would be anybody in his greaser gang. Other than that, no. Okay?
Well, let's see if there's not somebody.
So, y'all, what I'm going to do, because we can't write everything down, I'm going to put a star and put page 11, because that paragraph on page 11 really kind of talks about all the things he's done that shows you his personality. Because if he's jumping kids, I mean, that kind of lets us know a little something. So we need to stop there, which, I'm sorry, once we get past these character descriptions, y'all, this will go faster. But you've got to keep these people straight. We'll talk about Johnny tomorrow, and we will finish chapter 1 tomorrow, okay? And then it'll move faster when we get through this chart. That would be wonderful, Chris, please.